I held the cake with both hands and rang the bell. No one opened the door right away. I stood there on the porch of the house my husband once helped Mason buy into before the refinance, before they claimed it as their own. The door swung open. Lacey blinked, then gave me a quick, empty smile. "Oh," she said. "You brought something." I nodded. "Chocolate homemade, like Mason used to like." She stepped aside but didn't move fully out of the way. "That's nice," she said. "Just don't stay too long, okay? We invited you out of pity, not to get in the way." She said it like she was commenting on the weather. Then she walked off. I stepped inside. The smell of catered food filled the hallway. Something oily, something sweet. Nothing homemade. I looked toward the living room. Balloons. A few of Mason's coworkers. Some faces I didn't know. His in-laws clustered together laughing. Mason stood near the back holding a drink. He saw me. He looked right at me, then looked away. I set the cake down on the kitchen counter. No one offered to help. The sink was full of glasses. A tray of hors d'oeuvres was half eaten, but no one touched what I brought. I stepped back and leaned against the counter. I counted 5 people who glanced at me, then turned. One man even whispered something and nodded toward Lacey. They laughed. I didn't move. Lacey passed behind me. "There's sparkling cider on the table. But we didn't set a place for you. Didn't think you'd stay that long." Still that same tone. Light. Cruel. I walked to the far end of the room, sat in a folding chair near the garage door, and watched. Just watched. Mason laughed a few times. Loudly. He didn't look at me again. Someone turned up the music. A woman with a tight bun stood and gave a toast. To Mason, she said, "The most generous, most grounded man I've ever known." Applause. Lacey kissed his cheek. Mason smiled like he was proud of that line. I sat there and rubbed my hands together to keep them warm. The air vent behind me didn't work. At some point, a child spilled something sticky on the floor nearby. I got up and grabbed paper towels. No one asked me to. When I returned to my chair, it was taken. I stood for the rest of the party. No one thanked me for the cake. When dessert came out, it was a 3-tiered custom piece from a bakery downtown. Someone said, "Now this is what cake is supposed to look like." They cut slices. No one touched mine. I walked back to the kitchen, picked up my dish. No eye contact, not even from Mason. Then I quietly opened the fridge and tucked the chocolate cake in the back corner, next to someone else's wine. I straightened up, looked out the kitchen window. It was getting dark. No one stopped me when I left. No one noticed. The porch light didn't come on behind me. I didn't bother zipping my coat. The wind cut across the driveway, sharp and dry. I got in the car and turned the engine over. The silence inside was worse than the noise I left. I drove home with both hands on the wheel. Tomorrow I'd wash the pan, then put it away. For now, I just drove. I scraped the frosting off the cake pan with a dull knife. Hot water ran over my wrists. The sponge wore down faster than I remembered. I rinsed, dried, stacked. The house was quiet. No one had followed me in. No one offered to help. Not that I expected it. At the party, I'd stayed too long. Here, I'd arrived to silence. Both felt the same. I placed the clean forks back into the drawer. Wiped the counter. The noise of the house was muffled, now murmurs from the living room, low music, some plastic toy clacking against the floor. I walked past the hallway mirror and barely recognized myself. Tired eyes. A clean sweater. No lipstick today. In the living room, Lacey's voice rose. She was toasting Mason. Again. To the man who keeps this house running, who holds it all together. They cheered, someone clapped. I stayed back. I walked into the dining room, plates still full. No one had touched the salad I brought. The tray I'd arranged, cheese crackers, pickles, all in rows, sat untouched. I picked up a paper plate, folded it in half, and scraped it into the trash. Behind me, two women whispered. She still brings food like it matters. Poor thing. She's lucky we still invite her. They laughed. My back stiffened, but I didn't turn. I forced my mouth into something close to a smile. I took the serving spoon from the bowl and started packing it all up. One of the women offered me a fake grin when I passed. "Oh, let me know if you need a ride, Noreen." I shook my head. I drove. She nodded quickly and turned away, like relief. At the sink, I washed the serving spoons. I wiped the lids, dried my hands, checked my purse. Phone keys, wallet still there. Someone called out, "Lacey, your mom's coat is here." I watched as they all scrambled. Someone brought Lacey's mother her wrap like she was royalty. Mason gave her a kiss on the cheek. No one looked my way. I stood still. They passed around wine glasses. Toasted again. Mason laughed. Not once had he said hello to me. Or goodbye. I don't know which would have been worse. I walked toward the hall closet, hung my own coat back on the hook. I didn't want to carry it yet. I sat in the kitchen. Not at the table, just on the edge of a chair near the pantry. Out of view. A few minutes passed. Then Eli ran in. He didn't notice me at first. He grabbed a juice box from the fridge, turned, and nearly jumped. "Grandma?" I smiled. "Hi, sweetheart." He came close and leaned against me. "Why didn't you come to the park yesterday? I wasn't invited, honey." "Oh." He frowned. "But you always used to come." I brushed his hair back. "People forget." He looked at me. "I won't." He hugged me fast, then ran back out. I stayed seated. Lacey came in a moment later, grabbed a wine glass from the counter. Noticed me. "You're still here?" I stood up. I was just finishing the cleanup. She didn't say thank you, just turned and left. I poured myself a glass of tap water, drank it slowly. The front door opened. Cold air swept through. Someone laughed again. I washed the glass, dried it, and placed it upside down. Then I walked to the corner table and opened my purse. Took out the folder I always kept there. I hadn't looked inside in months. But now I opened it and started reading. I reached for my coffee pot, and it wasn't there. The shelf was cleared. In its place, a new silver one, sleek and spotless, still had the price tag under the handle. I stood there a second too long. Lacey walked in, tied her robe tighter. Oh, I thought that old one was broken. It leaked right. It worked fine. She shrugged. Well, we donated it. This one's programmable. She smiled like she was doing me a favor. I poured myself a cup anyway. The coffee tasted burnt. At breakfast, Eli was quiet. His hair was unbrushed. He pushed scrambled eggs around the plate. I offered to walk him to school. Mason didn't look up from his phone. "We're good, Mom. Lacey's mom wants to do the drop-off today." I nodded, even though I was already dressed. I sat beside Eli and helped tie his shoes. He leaned into me. Lacey walked past and sighed. "Make sure he wears the right jacket. Not that bulky one." I didn't answer. I zipped him up and buttoned the top. Later that afternoon, I found the school newsletter in the trash. On the back was a photo of the fall performance. Eli in a cardboard crown holding a paper sword. I hadn't known there was a play. No one had told me. I stared at his picture for a long time. He looked proud, happy. I placed the newsletter in my drawer and closed it gently. At dinner, I asked how it went. Lacey said, "Oh, it was last minute." "Not a big deal," Mason added. The room was packed. Didn't seem worth dragging everyone in. Everyone. I sat in silence and sliced my baked potato. No one noticed I didn't eat. Afterward, they brought in more folding chairs for the movie night. Lacey's mother got the padded seat with the armrest. I was handed the oldest chair in the garage. The metal squeaked when I sat down. It dipped on one side. I adjusted, stayed quiet. Halfway through the movie, I got up and went into the kitchen. I turned off the lights one by one. The hum of the fridge was louder than the television in the next room. I made myself tea, no coffee. I don't drink tea anymore. I sat at the counter, pulled out a notepad, scribbled 2 lines, then crossed them out. Behind me, laughter rose again. I didn't go back in. That night I tucked Eli into bed while they watched another show. He asked Grandma, "Are you going to come to my next thing at school? I will if I know about it." He frowned. "They didn't tell you?" I shook my head. He looked confused. He hugged me tight around the waist. When I stood up, I heard Lacey's voice down the hall. "She's just always around, like a shadow." Mason didn't reply. I closed Eli's door quietly. In my room, I opened the top drawer again. The folder was still there. Same seal, same paper. I hadn't touched it in years. But now I read the 3rd page again. The one with both our signatures. And mine alone underneath. I opened the mailbox and found a glossy brochure wedged between the bills. Ocean Pines Resort. Family packages. Kayaking, bonfires, cabins with views. I turned it over. Mason's last name was circled in black ink on the address label. Someone had signed up for a quote. Later that afternoon, I ran into Carol, my next-door neighbor at the grocery store. She smiled wide, asked if I'd packed yet. Packed for what I asked. "For the beach trip," she said. "Lacey posted about it. Whole family going. I figured you'd be with them." I nodded, pretending I knew. At home, I logged in. Lacey's page showed pictures of swimsuits, restaurant menus, and a pinned checklist titled Family Beach Trip Final Head Count. I wasn't on it. But I had transferred Water $500 last week when Lacey mentioned covering something big for Eli's summer. "Just a deposit," she said. "We'll all be together." It's for him. I had moved the money without thinking. Now I knew what it bought. That evening, Mason walked into the kitchen. "Do we have any extra towels?" he asked. I opened the cabinet, handed him 2. "Thanks," he said. "We're just getting stuff ready." "For what?" He hesitated. "Oh, Lacey booked the beach thing. Short trip. Her family's idea." I waited. He didn't explain more. "Will Eli be okay without me?" I asked. He rubbed the back of his neck. "I mean, he'll miss you, sure. But it's a tight fit. Small cabins." I nodded. "Of course." No one mentioned the money. I didn't bring it up. 2 days later, the hallway echoed with rolling suitcases. I stood at the top of the stairs, unseen. Lacey's voice floated up. "Don't forget Mom's wine. And the good beach towels." Eli called out, "Grandma, come see my new flip-flops." I came down and smiled. "Those are nice." He hugged me. "We'll get you a seashell." Lacey pulled him away. "Time to go, baby." Mason held the door open, eyes on his phone. No one asked me to come. I stood by the window after they left, watched their car turn down the road. The house was quiet. I went to the laundry room, washed towels they'd left behind, cleaned the microwave, tossed out spoiled strawberries from the fridge. By evening, I sat at the dining table alone. I sipped bitter coffee and opened my notebook. I flipped to a blank page, then wrote a single line, $1,500. Beach rental not included. Next line. Next time, ask first. Or don't. I closed the book and walked to the drawer, took out the folder, pulled out the copy of the original mortgage deed, then the joint account agreement I had never closed. At the bottom corner in my late husband's handwriting were 3 words. Noreen has control. I unlocked the drawer and pulled everything out. Not the usual things. Not bills, not recipes, not photos. Just one white envelope. Thick, heavy, still sealed. I sat down, ran my finger under the flap, and opened it. Inside 3 things. The first, a notarized agreement. Mason's name, my husband's signature, my own. A clause circled in red right of oversight, and withdrawal remained solely with Noreen Brandt. It was dated 8 years ago, back when Mason was first getting the house in order, back when he still said thank you. The second bank paperwork, a joint account, dormant. It had my name listed first, his second. I hadn't touched it since Greg died. But the balance was still there. The authority was still mine. The last activity a deposit from my own pension made during the refinance. I read it twice. Then I found the third item, a card, cream-colored, no logo. Martin Halperin attorney. Same number, same office. Greg trusted him. I hadn't needed to call in years, but now I placed the card beside the folder. I stared at them all, stacked neatly, lined up like choices. I remembered when Greg insisted on those papers, just in case he said, "You never know who people become when you're gone." I hadn't believed him then. I do now. I took out my phone, scrolled past messages from Eli, from old neighbors, from forgotten numbers, found the contact Greg once saved under Plan B. I stared at it. Then I pressed call. A woman picked up. "Halperin Law. This is Noreen Brandt," I said. "Is Martin still taking calls?" A pause. "Yes, ma'am." "Let me check if he's available." Hold music played. The same kind Greg used to hum to himself while pacing the kitchen. Then Noreen? His voice was older, slower, but steady. "It's been a long time," I said. "It has." "What do you need?" I told him. "Not everything. Just enough. The mortgage, the account, the trip, the way they erased me with my own money." He didn't interrupt. When I finished, he said, "Still have the documents, I do." "Good," he said. "Send me scans. Tonight, I'll walk you through the next steps tomorrow." We hung up. I sat for a while. No noise, no Lacey, no Mason, no Eli's shoes on the stairs. No one asking for anything. I put the papers back in order, tucked them in a plain manila folder. I wrote one word on the front hold. Then I opened the banking app on my phone. Logged into the old account. Still active. Still mine. Still waiting. I flipped the burgers and handed Mason the tongs. He was hosting, but I was cooking. Like always. The backyard was loud. Kids running around. Plastic cups. Paper plates. Lacey's mother sat under the umbrella, sipping lemonade, legs crossed, sunglasses too big for her face. I stayed by the grill heat, stinging my hands. Mason walked over, beer in hand, sunglasses perched on his head, like he was 20 again. "Things are good," he said loudly to his friend from work. "The house is technically ours now. Just got it all restructured." I turned, spatula hovering. He saw me, gave a little nod, then kept going. "Yeah, we've stabilized since Dad passed. Took a while, but now it's ours. Fully running under our roof. Their roof." I stepped back and placed the meat on a tray. Covered it with foil. A few steps behind me, Lacey whispered to her sister, unaware I was standing by the screen door. "Just keep her happy," she said. "Her name's still on everything." They both laughed softly. I moved inside and closed the door. I washed my hands at the sink. The water ran too hot. I turned it off and stood there, staring at the faucet. So that was the plan. Keep me happy. Keep me useful. Wait me out. No anger. Just a quiet knowing. I dried my hands, set out condiments, made it look like nothing was wrong. Backyard chatter swelled again. Mason passed out plates. Lacey passed out lies. I served myself last. Sat at the far end of the patio. Across the table, Lacey's mom sat in the best chair again, cushioned, with a backrest. My folding chair creaked every time I shifted. Mason raised his glass. To new chapters. I looked down at my plate. Later, I cleared the table. Carried the trash out myself. No offers. No thanks. As I pulled the second bag, I heard Lacey on the phone, half laughing, pacing near the fence. She's still kicking. I mean, She's not going anywhere anytime soon. But yeah, we're just waiting for the timing to line up. Then we'll redo the paperwork. I didn't move. She walked inside without seeing me. I walked back to my room and opened the folder again. Still my name. Still my account. Still my control. But now my awareness. Now I saw it plain. They weren't planning to include me. They were planning around me. I pulled out the card again and dialed. No hesitation. Halperin-Law, the voice said. It's Noreen. Tell Martin I'm ready to move. I knocked twice, then opened the screen door. Gwen was already waiting inside, 2 mugs on the table, black coffee steaming. We hadn't spoken face to face in months, maybe longer. But she didn't ask why I called. Just sat down across from me and said, "You look thinner." I smiled and shrugged. Not on purpose. We sipped in silence for a while. I looked around the kitchen. Same checkered curtains. Same cracked window above the sink. Same sense of quiet Gwen always carried. "I need to ask you something," I said. She set her mug down. "Go on." I told her about the house, about Lacey, about the beach trip I wasn't invited to, the money they didn't mention, the comment I overheard at the barbecue. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. Gwen didn't interrupt. When I finished, she sat back. "You know about Trish's mother, right?" I shook my head. "Lacey got close with her last year," Gwen said. "Said she'd help her clean up her finances, make things easier. Next thing we know, the condo's in her name. Trish didn't even know until they were moving her mom to assisted living." I stared at her. "She's clever," Gwen said. "Sweet when she wants to be. But I wouldn't leave her near anything with a signature line." My stomach tightened. Gwen kept going. "And the way people talk?" I raised my eyes. "Some of the neighbors think you're lucky to live with them," she said softly. "That they're helping you out." I blinked. Helping me. You know how stories twist. I leaned back in the chair, let it settle. "I built that house with Greg," I said. "Every tile, every cabinet, every nail in that deck." "I know," Gwen said. "We all do, but it doesn't matter if they're louder." I finished my coffee in 3 gulps. It was still hot. "I haven't told anyone else," I said. "Not even my sister." Gwen nodded. "You don't have to." I stood. She walked me to the door. Before I left, she placed a folded napkin in my hand. Inside, a business card. Same man I'd already called. "You knew Greg," I said. She smiled. "He told me if you ever needed backup to hand you that." I walked to my car, sat behind the wheel, and didn't start it. I didn't feel alone. Not entirely. But I did feel surrounded. I took a pen from the glove compartment and wrote 1 sentence on the back of the card. They flipped the story. It's time to flip it back. Then I turned the key and drove straight to the bank. I stared at the transfer request on my phone. $600. Labeled school fund, plus groceries. No call, no message. Just a silent ping from Mason's joint account with my name still tied to it. The same account I hadn't touched in years. I let it sit. 5 minutes. 10. I pressed decline. The screen asked if I was sure. I pressed yes. 10 minutes later, the call came in. I didn't answer. Then a voicemail. "Hi, Noreen, it's Lacey," she said. Her voice smooth but clipped. "Not sure if the bank glitched or if something's going on, but the transfer didn't go through. Eli's class needs payment by Friday, and we were counting on it." She hesitated, then added, "Let me know. Thanks." I saved it. 3 hours later, she appeared in the hallway. No knock. "I just want to clarify," she said, arms folded. "Was it a mistake? Or did you really decline the transfer?" I stood from the laundry basket, wiped my hands on a towel. "I saw it," I said. She blinked. "Okay." And I chose not to send it. She let out a soft, mocking laugh. "That's how we're doing things now." I said nothing. Her voice sharpened. "This is a family, Noreen. You don't withhold from family." I folded a towel, placed it on the pile. "We've always worked together. And frankly, you live here." You eat here. Eli sees you as a constant. That means something. You can't just pull out when it's inconvenient. I nodded. She waited for a reaction. Got none. Then she stepped closer. I'm not trying to be cruel, but if we're going to talk fairness, I looked up at her. Are we? She went quiet. I've been fair, I said. She stared at me. Fine. Just let Mason know when you decide to change your mind. She left. I walked to my room, closed the door, and pulled out my notebook. I wrote the date, the amount, her words. Then I played the voicemail again. I backed it up. Hit record on my second phone. Saved a copy. Her voice filled the room, calm, careful, slightly annoyed. I labeled it Test 1. Then I put the phone in the drawer beside the folder beside the card. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt steady. The first no is always the hardest, not because of the word, but because of the silence that follows. That night, no one spoke to me. No one said good night. I sat on the porch with my mug of coffee alone under the porch light and listened to the hum of the crickets. The guilt didn't land. It hovered. But I didn't move. I dialed early, just after 6. The sun barely up. Martin Halperin, he answered. No assistant this time. It's me, I said. It's time. He didn't ask questions. Then we begin. First step, do nothing loud. No confrontations, just prepare. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. I'll email the forms, he said. We'll trigger the mortgage clause quietly. You're still the co-signer, your withdrawal changes everything. And the account split it. Move your half. Do it before they notice. Will they be alerted only if they're watching? Are they... I think they assume I'm asleep? He paused. Good. We hung up. I went to the bank at noon. Quiet branch. No lines. I sat with a woman named Lorna. Her voice was soft, her nails neat. I'd like to transfer part of a dormant joint account into a private one, I said. Still under my name. Just solo. She nodded. Typed, checked ID. She asked if I needed checks. I said no. She offered to send a debit card. I declined. I signed. That account, mine alone, now held every dollar I had contributed over the years. And some I hadn't touched. Back home, I opened the email from Halperin, downloaded the PDF, printed the form, revocation of co-signer rights and withheld consent to refinance. I read it twice, then signed, dated it, scanned it, sent it back. The reply came 10 minutes later. Received. Logged. Quiet clock. Starts now. I closed my laptop. Sat back. Let my hands settle. In the kitchen, Mason rummaged through a drawer. Did you see the property tax mail he called out? Lacey swears she left it on the counter. I stood and walked out. I haven't seen it, I said. He nodded without looking at me. Just need to check if the escrow is still pulling. I smiled. If not, I'm sure they'll contact the owner. He looked up at that, but didn't respond. That night I cleaned the counters, made coffee for one. Upstairs, the hallway lights dimmed, doors shut. I took out the notebook again, wrote a single word, begin. Then I added a date beside it. Not the day they started, the day I did. I unlocked the safe, pulled the fireproof folder from behind the furnace, not the red one. The other green spine, thick clasp corners worn. Inside, the deed. Grantee Noreen Brandt. No transfer on record. I checked every page. No amendment. No quitclaim. No handover. Mason never filed anything. The refinance had fooled me. But not the county. I sat down at the kitchen table, the folder beside my coffee. I called Halperin. He answered on the second ring. I have the deed, I said. His name, not on it. He whistled under his breath. That changes everything. I already knew that. I want to file the occupancy motion, I said. You sure? Yes. He didn't hesitate. We'll file it quietly. Intent to reclaim. No eviction needed because legally you're not a guest. You're the owner. The house is yours. I faxed him the documents within the hour. He confirmed receipt. Then I sat back and watched the sun move across the floor. They thought I was a relic, a leftover. They called me a helper, a guest, a dependent. But the title never moved. I never signed it over. That night, Lacey brought home throw pillows. 4 of them. Tagged. Trendy. She tossed one onto the couch I bought 15 years ago. "We're thinking of changing the color palette," she said, not looking at me. "Of the house?" I asked. She smiled. "Of course. We want something fresher. New start, maybe repaint? Knock down that old pantry wall?" I nodded. Big plans. She nodded back, pleased with herself. I watched her carry the pillows upstairs. The pantry wall she wanted to destroy was load-bearing, but I didn't correct her. The next morning, Halperin sent confirmation motion filed, time-stamped silent. He included a copy for my records. I printed it, folded it, slid it under the stack in my green folder. Then I made coffee, poured a full mug, and sat at the table. My table. My house. My name. Still on every inch of it. And now quietly, legally fully, I was taking it back. I installed the doorbell camera before they came home. Bought it in cash. No delivery. No paper trail. Took me less than an hour. It synced to my phone. Quiet. Clean. Watching. Then I made copies, 3 full sets of every financial document Halperin had flagged. Mortgage clause, deed, bank transfers, account withdrawal forms, Lacey's voicemail. 1 set went in my safety deposit box at the bank. 1 set went to Halperin's office, sealed and overnighted. The last stayed with me, wrapped in foil, tucked under the pantry floorboard beneath a false tile Greg and I had placed for emergencies. We never used it. Until now. Halperin called that afternoon. Drafted the letter, he said. Only send it if they push. Right now, silence is working. I nodded. Let it keep working. He paused. They still think you're staying quiet. They think I'm baking banana bread, I said. And I was. I took out flour, measured sugar, sliced 3 browning bananas with the back of a spoon. The kitchen filled with cinnamon and warmth. Lacey came downstairs halfway through. She glanced at the bowl. "No walnuts?" she asked. I left them out. She shrugged. "Mason likes them in. Just so you know." I smiled. "I'll remember next time." She left without helping. Mason walked in later. Smelled the bread, smiled like everything was fine. He kissed my cheek. "You spoil us." "No," I said. "I just like things done right." We ate together that night. They didn't notice the camera blinking faintly by the front door. They didn't notice the missing files from the drawer in the office. They didn't see the manila envelope in my purse. They laughed, scrolled past photos around of possible cabinet colors. "We're thinking sage green," Lacey said. "Something soft clean." I nodded. Mason glanced at me. "That pantry's gonna come down this summer. Make the whole room feel bigger." I smiled. "You'll want to check the foundation first." He waved me off. "I'll figure it out." I sipped my coffee, kept smiling. Let them plan. Let them talk. I stayed small, polite, predictable, and every second they believed it, the counter ticked lower. Halperin's letter sat sealed in my nightstand. Dated, signed, ready. The title was in my drawer. The footage uploaded daily to the cloud. All I had to do was wait. My phone buzzed just after 9. A Venmo request. Lacey H. $600. Eli's class gift. Everyone's contributing, no context. No question. Just the assumption I'd comply. I stared at it. Clicked decline. No message. No comment. Just a quiet refusal. 5 minutes later, Mason texted. "You're making things difficult. It's for Eli. No greeting. No punctuation. Just blame." I didn't respond. Instead, I made coffee. Sat by the window. Let the steam warm my face. The silence didn't last long. That afternoon, Lacey posted to Facebook a photo of Eli holding a wrapped box. Under it, "Grateful to those who teach generosity, even when the elderly forget it." Lessons. Grace, I didn't comment. I didn't like it. But I read the replies. You're so strong. Some people just don't get it. Proud of you, Mama. None of them knew me. I kept scrolling until I found what I needed. Lacey's profile still public. I screenshotted the post. Saved the image. Filed it under push attempts emotional pressure. That night, Mason didn't say much. He passed the peas, nodded once, never looked me in the eye. Lacey smiled tight. We'll just cover the rest ourselves, like always. I folded my napkin. You don't have to. Her smile cracked. It's done. No one mentioned the post. No one apologized. Later, I sat in my room, pulled out the sealed envelope from Halperin labeled Stage 2. I didn't open it. Not yet, but I placed it on the desk where I could see it. Let them keep proving who they were. Let them post. Let them assume. Because the next message I sent wouldn't be a payment. It would be the truth. I brought snickerdoodles to the kitchen just before Eli got home. Soft, still warm. Sugar cracked at the edges. Lacey saw them first. Oh, she said, surprised. You didn't have to. I wanted to, I said. He likes cinnamon. She picked one up, took a bite, nodded. They're good. He'll be happy. I washed dishes. Let her stand close. Let her think I was folding. That evening, I offered to babysit. Lacey blinked. Really? Yes, I said. You two should go out. She smiled. Wow. Maybe you're finally learning your place. I laughed quietly. Maybe. She told Mason. Mason grinned, like something had finally worked. The next day, they left for dinner. I stayed with Eli. We watched a movie. Ate spaghetti. At 9:00 p.m., I tucked him into bed. At 9:15, I emailed Halperin. The subject line was simple. Confirm triggers. Proceed. The reply came 10 minutes later. 1. Access powers revoked. Effective immediately. 2. Rental lease clause. Activated. 30-day timeline begins now. I read it twice. Burned the paper copy in the kitchen sink. The lease clause hidden deep in the refinance papers Mason never read. Allowed the primary title holder to reclassify any non-contributing adult as a month-to-month occupant. The revocation meant neither he nor Lacey could authorize payments or withdrawals under my name again. 2 papers. 2 signatures. No announcement. No drama. I still made breakfast the next morning. Omelets. Toast. Coffee for Mason. Tea for Lacey, though she left it untouched, scrolling on her phone. Thanks, Mason mumbled. You're welcome, I said. They didn't ask why I was humming. They didn't ask where I'd gone the day before. They didn't ask why I looked calm. I just kept smiling, because pretending was easier for them, and silence was easier for me. I wrapped the scarf myself. Soft gray cashmere blend, hand-stitched hem. Not expensive, but thoughtful. Clean lines. Elegant. I tied it with a cream ribbon, no card. Just a folded corner of tissue paper tucked inside. I carried it in my purse. The restaurant was loud. Lacey sat at the center of the long table framed by candles and half-drunk wine glasses. Mason stood behind her, beaming. I arrived last. No seat marked for me. I found one near the edge. Mom, Mason said flatly. Glad you made it. Lacey didn't look up. I waited until dessert. Then I walked to her side, handed her the gift. This is for you, I said. Happy birthday. She blinked, peeled it open. The scarf slipped out, caught the candlelight for a second. She held it up. A few people glanced. No one spoke. Then she leaned toward Mason just close enough for me to hear. She brings cheap junk, she hissed, but eats our food. He didn't stop her. Didn't glance my way. Didn't flinch. I didn't speak. I picked up my purse. Pushed my chair back. Walked out the door without looking behind me. The scarf was still hanging off her lap. I walked into the night air. Cool, sharp. No tears. Just movement. The car ride home was silent. The camera light blinked on when I reached the porch. Inside, I turned off the kitchen light, closed the green folder, tucked it back under the floor. Tomorrow would begin what they never saw coming. Tonight, I let the door lock click behind me. I walked in beside Halpern. The house smelled of roasted chicken garlic rolls, something overly sweet in the oven. Laughter bounced from room to room. People I hadn't seen in years, neighbors, church acquaintances, Eli's fourth-grade teacher, stood around sipping wine and nibbling cheese cubes. Lacey turned first. She froze when she saw who I came with. Mason followed her stare. His smile faded. "What's this?" I smiled gently. "Dinner, isn't it?" He tried to laugh. "Yeah, but who's this?" Halpern stepped forward. "Marshall Halpern, Mrs. Brandt's legal representative." Lacey's mouth opened, then shut. I stepped into the center of the living room, looked around. Everyone quieted without me asking. "I've stayed quiet a long time," I said. No one moved. "You've been living on my funds," I continued, voice even, hands at my sides. "That stops today." Mason blinked. "What are you talking about?" I turned to the guests. "They've used my joint account without consent, redirected funds, lived in a house that doesn't bear their name. I own this home, legally, fully. I never signed it over." Halpern pulled a file from his case, stepped forward, handed the first letter to Mason, the second to Lacey. "Effective today," Halpern said calmly. "Mrs. Brandt is terminating all financial access and reclassifying this residence. You have 30 days to vacate per the lease clause filed and recorded." Lacey's face twisted. "This is insane." Halpern raised a hand. "Everything's notarized. Copies were submitted to the county clerk this morning." Mason went pale. "Mom, I covered Eli's school gifts, the groceries, your mortgage payments, your throw pillows." I smiled while you erased me. Lacey looked around the room. "She's trying to humiliate us." "No," I said, still calm. "You did that yourselves." Someone gasped. Eli's teacher backed a step. A neighbor whispered, "Wait. She owns the house." Mason stared at the floor, said nothing. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I just stood there and told the truth. And for the first time, the house listened. I closed the account at 9:04 a.m. The banker didn't ask questions. He slid the final balance summary across the desk, smiling like this was just routine. I nodded, signed, left. By 9:17, alerts started pinging. Mortgage alert, payment failed. Joint account closed. Auto pay declined. By 10:03, my phone lit up with Lacey's name. I let it ring. At 10:05, she tried again. At 10:07, she left a voicemail. I didn't listen to it until the next morning. Her voice cracked halfway through. "You think this makes you noble?" she spat. "You're destroying your own son, your grandson's life. You don't care who you hurt, you just want control." Then a pause. "I hope you're proud." I deleted it. No reply. I brewed coffee, sat in my chair by the window, let the cup warm my hands. Mason didn't call, he didn't text, but I saw his face 2 days later, in the hallway, pale, drawn. He didn't say hello, didn't ask me why, just walked past with a bag of laundry and a set jaw. The neighbors who once waved when I took out the trash no longer looked up. Even the mailman seemed slower now. I didn't mind. Silence had stopped being lonely. It had started feeling earned. I folded towels, paid my internet bill, ate toast, watched my flowers bloom in the front yard. Lacey stopped slamming drawers, stopped smiling for show. One morning, she passed me on the porch. I sipped my coffee. She didn't speak. I didn't look at her. And in that small, perfect moment, I said everything. Lacey slammed a folder on the table. "She can't do this. She can't just cut us off like we're renters. Sue her." Mason rubbed his eyes. "And say what? That she took back what was already hers." She's ruining everything she warned us, he muttered. You just didn't listen. She pointed at her phone. We can find another lawyer. One that... No, he said low. We can't. She turned, stunned. He stood, walked out. I watched from the hallway, heard it all. By noon, I mailed the envelope. Copies of withdrawals, signed transfers, gift receipts, co-payments, bank statements in color, labeled and ordered. One to my brother-in-law in Spokane, one to Mason's aunt in Tucson, one to the woman who raised me, now retired in Flagstaff. By Friday, the calls came in. The first was Mason's uncle. He didn't yell, didn't scold. Just one question. What were you two doing? Mason didn't answer. He sat on the porch for nearly an hour after that. Didn't ask for coffee. Didn't look at me. Just stared at his shoes. I let him sit. Let him feel it. Because I wasn't going to explain why dignity matters. He'd already learned by losing it. Eli tugged at my sleeve while I trimmed the garden. Grandma, he said, why don't you come inside anymore? I wiped my hands on a rag, crouched to his level. Sometimes I said gently, grown-ups need to grow apart to heal. He didn't quite understand, but he nodded. Kids know more than they say. He wrapped his arms around my waist, then ran back toward the porch where his mother waited, arms crossed. Thanksgiving came. Lacey sent a text. We're hosting. Mason says please come, followed by a second. Eli misses you. Don't be stubborn. I didn't reply. The turkey smell drifted across the yard that afternoon, faint but familiar. Chairs scraped inside. Silverware clinked. I stayed on my porch, brewed coffee, read the same page of a book 3 times, watched a crow land on the fence and peck at nothing. No one came over. No plate was brought. No door opened. The silence wasn't cruel this time. It was calm, clear, and mine. I poured another cup. Let the steam rise. Let the moment settle. There was no ache left in the waiting. I walked into the bank alone, asked for a trust account form, sat down, read every line, asked no questions. I already knew. By 2:12 p.m., I'd signed over the savings account. Not to Mason, to Eli, held in trust, accessible only when he turns 21, with a note attached sealed inside. I hope the world is kinder than they were. Build something with this. The banker nodded, didn't ask why I looked so calm. I took the receipt, folded it into my wallet, walked out into the cold without a coat, stopped at the edge of the sidewalk, pulled out my phone, one voicemail. I kept it short. Mason, I didn't do this to punish you. I did it because you stopped seeing me as a person. Take care of your son better than you treated your mother. I didn't wait for a reply. Didn't expect one. I deleted his number, walked home with empty pockets and a light chest. The money was no longer leverage. It was a gift redirected, and I never looked back. I filled the kettle, waited, poured the water, scooped the grounds, let it brew strong. Opened the cabinet, chose the chipped ceramic mug. It said in faint blue letters, still here. I stepped onto the porch. The wood creaked under my heel. The air was cool, soft. No cars passed. No voices called from the house, just the slow drift of steam and a chair that hadn't been used by anyone but me. The title was still in the drawer behind me. The house, still mine. Fully. Quietly. I took a sip. No bitterness. No sugar. Just heat. Truth. Wait. I didn't need an audience. Didn't need an apology. Didn't need the past rewritten. I was still here. And for the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for anyone to notice.